Mr. President, I'd like
Chair
to
recognizes Senator Whitmire to speak against the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I really kind of had expected to go last, or certainly I would yield that to Wendy Davis. But Senator Patrick, I can't sit here and let you question my faith as it relates to my position on this piece of legislation. In 1956 in Pasadena, Texas, at Second Baptist Church, I was baptized after I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. The proponents of this legislation have no monopoly on their faith. I didn't have to put it ingrained in our chamber to continue my belief. And I really think you probably crossed the line. But I also respect any senator's right to speak his or her mind. But I have some points I'd like to make, but I wanted to first address, don't question the faith of any member on this floor. Senator Estes, you know this is a God-fearing group of senators and has no place in this discussion. What makes this discussion so difficult, members, and having been here 40 years, 10 in the House, 30 in the Senate, nothing compares with this emotional issue because we all want to do the right thing. Let me repeat that. Every senator wants to do the right thing. But we have different understandings of what that means. Why do you get up when you already know the outcome? Some might ask. It's because it's our job. It's my belief. I think we have to speak for our constituents and those who can't speak for themselves tonight. And let me digress for a moment, or be right on target. I certainly don't approve of the outbreaks in the gallery. I'm sorry about the June 25th episode, and I will not go there. I will speak to the outcries tonight. They're wrong to do so, but what we must understand, members, Senator Nelson, you know this, we are surrounded by women, some that we work with on a daily basis, that have had to make the awful decision, Dr. Duell. They never dreamed when they were little girls that someday they'd grow up and have an abortion. But desperate people do desperate things, members. And what you have to understand, and what makes me want to cry, I feel Dr. Campbell's pain. When you talk to her about this subject, tears come to her eyes. Larry, I heard you this afternoon talking about Kelly Hancock's Chief of Staff 1.5 ounce premature baby at Texas Children. That's a victory. And hopefully every young woman would have the opportunity to go to Texas Children. But we are surrounded, and this lady, I don't know her circumstances, but let's try to understand the women. Senator Patrick, you and I will never understand it. Remember, we've got to at least respect the feelings of the people that are out there in the hall. We are surrounded. I would suggest there's people on this floor that have either had relatives, friends, family, and I'm going to cite a couple of my experiences in a moment. I don't think that we are still appreciating the shoes other people walk in, Dan Patrick. People are hurting watching us remind them of the decision they made as high school women. They didn't grow up to have an abortion. They were either abused by a stepfather, a boyfriend. Senator Estes, I saw your disgust when you heard Senator Davis reading letters about women who said, I was just broke, a financial decision, didn't know what to do. And you walked by me in the back and said, that's just repulsive that someone, because of economics, would go to an abortion. You know that's right in your world. But if you know you're not paying your bills, you're living out of your car, you have a drug problem, you list them that would drive someone to making that decision. The examples, Dr. Schwartner, of your mother's courage, the Kelly Hancock's chief of staff, and the victories are not what we're about tonight. Those young ladies had the support, the courage, the opportunity to deliver their baby, which I'd suggest would be the goal of all young women. Those are the good faces. And the reason we don't need to have abortion procedures. But let's talk about those, and before I go to the ones that might shed some light on why I feel as passionate as I do. You're right, I like to put a face on things. Come back to the real world. The state rep that showed his 17-week ultrasound of his child that he was defending at the mic, he put a face on it. I got a face of my first grandchild. Whitney got her anatomy ultrasound at 8 o'clock this morning. She called me at 10. Senator Patrick, she's 20 weeks. She had a gathering of her young friends at 7 o'clock to announce that it's a boy. I'm standing for my daughter and others. Not that she would need an abortion, but because it's her decision, her body. She's blessed with a supportive family, a great husband, and a healthy fetus. But members, as some of the heartache of the women that can't stand it any longer and have to leave because we're reminding them of their awful decisions that they feel like you're trying to make them feel guilty about. Let me just put a face on a couple of real tough decisions. And it's not about I recommend or I support their decision to have an abortion, but I know they were desperate. In 1972, and I say this because this is how I formulated my position on this position to allow a woman, her God, her doctor, her partner, her guardian to make the decision. I have seen the decision-making process. And let me just say, it would be outrageous if I discovered, and I think I do, Senator Patrick, that there are a number of senators voting on this floor who have never had to counsel, look a young woman in the eye as she's making that decision, because it will change your life forever to just witness someone make that decision. 1972, I'll go through a couple quick and then I'm going to be very recent. 1972, I'm working at the food stamp office in Houston, and a young lady that I worked with cried on my shoulder after work one day, said, I don't know what to do. I just found out I'm pregnant and my boyfriend left me. My only option is to go to New York. Abortions were illegal in Texas in 1970. I said, is there any way I can assist you? Transportation. She said, I need $300. She's frightened, Senator Davis. She's all along in Houston, just moved there, needs $300. Her life is coming unraveled. I'd literally take her to the airport to join the other ladies going to New York. Saw her when she got back. She was an emotional wreck. She knew she'd made a life-altering decision. If you haven't been there, you probably aren't fully prepared to engage in this debate, certainly to understand the opposition's feelings. Quickly, I was a young state rep in 1974. dating a lady in Austin. She said, come go with me Saturday. I'm going to tell my family I'm taking my 14-year-old sister to an office party. Instead, she took her to East Austin. Life-altering decision. And that is one of the young ladies that can't stand to hear the debate. She did something desperate as a 14-year-old with her older sister making decisions for her. An employee in the Capitol I know 2 years ago, so excited to be pregnant. Health issues with the baby. Doctors advised her that an option was to terminate, to not have a child that would never be normal. Whether you respect that, Senator Patrick, really doesn't really matter. The law allows that lady, the Constitution, Senator Birdwell, that you so uphold because of the Second Amendment, that same Constitution allows that family to make that decision. Now let me get really down to where I want you, even if you're for this bill, I want you to suffer with the considerations of this next case. I have a person that works in the lobby that is like a daughter to me. Beautiful young woman. Has always had difficulty with tumors in her uterus. I don't understand the subject matter, but she came to me several years ago and said, I can't have children, but we're going to fertilize some eggs, my husband and I, and have a surrogate mother. We celebrated the surrogate mother's pregnancy. We had the baby shower in my home. The baby's 2 years old. Quickly, they had the second surrogate child, different surrogate mother. Senator Hager, they have told her it will take her life if she has babies because she has tumors in her uterus that will not support a fetus. So, what's the problem? Beautiful young family, 1 and 2 year old sons. Second week of May, while we're in session, I am so busy as you are. This person shows up at 9 o'clock in my office downstairs, looks at me and starts crying. I said, what's wrong? She said, I got a problem. I said, what? Are you getting a divorce? Are you having marital problems? She said, no, I'm pregnant, and starts crying uncontrollably. She said, we went to a doctor yesterday, and she said, it will probably could cost me my life. But she said, let's go through with it. A pro-life doctor by philosophy and practice, Dr. Schwartner. 1 and 2 year old sons, beautiful young girl, promising career, happily married. Looks to me, I'm scared. She was 10 weeks pregnant, did not know she was pregnant, but knew she had been feeling bad and had went to the doctor the day before, and the doctor said, it could cost you your life, but I'm willing to, let's go for it. And I said, no. You're going to get a second opinion. I'll get you lined up at Baylor Med to get a second opinion. You have got to consider all your options. I come to the floor and I approach my dear friend that I have confidence in as a senator, but certainly as a doctor. I said, Dr. Dooley, I got a problem. What do we do? Why, this outstanding person is advising me on how to counsel this person who's 10 weeks pregnant, by chance the same period as my daughter, 10 weeks at that time. And I only mention that to let you know today this person would be 20 weeks. While I'm talking to Dr. Dooley members, the person calls me on an emergency saying, I'm in the women's restroom hemorrhaging uncontrollably, just a few feet off the Senate floor. 10 weeks pregnant, 2 babies at home. Doctor said the day before it could cost you your life, but let's go for it. This gentleman and I run to the women's restroom, the public restroom. I don't go in. Dr. Dewell goes in, and she is totally losing her blood. He assists her. We get her to the emergency room. The next day, on Friday, she goes to Houston. On Monday, she meets a doctor at Baylor Med, a professor who has a practice, and he says, it's your decision, but it could cost you your life. And I'm prepared to not only do a hysterectomy, but we'll have to abort your fetus at 10 weeks. Dr. Schwartner, I mentioned that. If she'd have listened to the first doctor, tonight she'd be 20 weeks. If the hemorrhaging would have occurred after 20 weeks, this legislation, the way it's drafted, could easily not be interpreted as a threat to her immediate life. And we would lose a young woman who has 2 young babies at home to raise. That person can probably not stand to listen to this debate, Senator Hager, because we're talking about her life, her decisions with her husband, her God, and a doctor. And that's why I think we have to recognize that there's 2 sides to this issue. Of course, no one advocates abortions in the taking of a fetus, or if you believe it's a life at conception. I respect that. But for everything it's worth, understand that I and others on this floor know women who have made awful decisions and are having to make decisions tonight. The unintended consequences, Senator Hager, that's not speculation that because of lack of health care and the closing of the clinics. Senator Patrick, you're saying we're voting for less health care? Yeah, because they're going to Mexico is where they're going to head. They're going to the flea markets along the McAllen Valley. I know that a speech in the Senate very seldom changes votes. I love the Senate. I love and respect the Texas House. In the Texas House, you give a good speech and you can turn about 30 votes out of 150 members. In the Senate, it's been my experience, people prepare themselves. They normally know how they want to vote when they come to the floor. I don't give this speech thinking that I've changed votes, but I sure hope, Senator Patrick, that I have shed some lights that it's not for our lack of faith or our wanting less care. It's because, one, we see things different. We want to do the right thing, but we all have our own interpretation of what the right thing is. And with that said, I will close because I'm sad. That we even have to deal with this subject. Wouldn't it be nice if everyone lived in a perfect world, Senator Estes, where you got to plan your family? It'd be nice if everybody lived in my daughter's world. My daughters are blessed. I'm blessed. And I just hope, in closing, that you will at least try to understand where other people are coming from. And what I really want to close is I see Senator Uristi. I would hope and pray that at some future opportunity, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle will give Senator Uristi the understanding from his perspective. He had a good amendment, but also understand the process. And Senator West, I understand elections matter. And I would hope people of all persuasions will let this motivate them to get involved, not only voting, but seeing that women's health care and all the ramifications are taken care of. Thank you, Mr. President.
And I would hope, Senator Whitmire, that with so many people on the floor talking about wanting to work together to reduce the number of abortions in America and in Texas, that we do just that.